All right, welcome to the Men's Talk Show. This is Duran. We have our guest here today, Dennis, with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself here, Dennis. What you do, where you're from, let the audience know a little bit about you before we get into our topic today of what is manhood and how does it affect mental health. So just
Sure,
introduce yourself.
absolutely. Well, my name is Dennis Sumlin. I live in New York City. I am a self-development coach, and I also teach metaphysics, things like numerology, things like that, anything on the metaphysical, spiritual. I was born and raised in New York City. I have a background in education, public speaking, leadership, and metaphysics. I spent some time in the entertainment business as a talent recruiter, but now I'm a full-time self-development coach and metaphysical teacher.
All right. So has your how has your mental health been, and being a man? Like what stigmas that you think mental health in terms of men's mental health?
Growing up, the story is like a lot of people grow up without a strong male role model, things like that. So I was one of them. My father figure died early in my life. So I kind of had to figure out a lot of what was going on in terms of manhood myself. When I was a kid, I went through a lot of bouts of depression and that kind of self-esteem, kind of from a lot of things. I had to figure out what this thing called manhood, what is this thing called self-esteem, what is this thing called confidence. And so I had to kind of go out of ups and downs and kind of for myself, and me on a journey of development and trying to figure out what all this was about and move through it, myself. So I would say that early on in my life, as far as mental health, it was off and on. I was very depressed. I went through several bouts of suicide, maybe two major bouts of tendencies. But kind of just studied a lot, spoke to trusted people that I know, and kind of helped myself over a course of years.
But that certainly wasn't easy, right? To tough it out yourself. Let's say in a perfect scenario, if you could go back through that again, what are some things that you would like to have while you were going through those tough times?
I would have liked to have somebody that would take the time, well, one, to understand who I am and where I'm coming from. Because when I was growing up, I didn't really think like a lot of people around me. I'm not really one of the crowd. I'm kind of, and for many reasons, I kind of think differently. So I wish I had somebody back then to take time to get to know who I am as an individual instead of trying to make me go along with what everybody else was doing. And listen to and be taken seriously and have someone who were patient to work through some of the things I needed to work through and also point me in the right directions towards, healthy sense of manhood, things like that. Basically, probably maybe a guide / mentor type of a thing.
Okay. That's the no. Did you have any like friends, family that you can rely on for to support during your, mental time?
Well, nobody in my family. That's going to happen. But friendship, yeah, I've been blessed with a lot of good friends who were there for each other, right? But yeah, they would be there for me when I needed someone to be there for me. So over the course of my life, I've had a series of good friends. Now I have, even in my life now, I have people that we can turn to each other when we're going through ups and downs. And now that I'm really much more focused on my spiritual growth and I'm in a really good place, I still need people to turn to every now and then. So I do have a good infrastructure of friendships. But like I said, when I was younger, there were still certain things that I need to work through myself without having. It's sort of like you have friends that are good for some things, but not for everything. So when I was younger, I had great friends for things, but there were certain things that I just didn't know where to turn to or who I'd be able to trust to work through them. So yes, for good friends, but it didn't cover everything all the time.
And I think that's a great point that you bring up. And that's something I want to stamp on is that not every friend is your best friend. Not every friend is your confidant, in your life for certain reasons. And maybe being a trusted advisor is not one of them. You need to gauge who your friends are and value they bring in your life. And there's nothing wrong with having a friend that can't be that confidant person. Absolutely, you want that, but you have to understand that not everybody's like that. And like you did realize that, or you were trying to figure that out. Like, can I share this with this person? Will they go and tell the whole neighborhood, or can I share this with another person and they'll keep it to themselves?
Absolutely. I'm very conscious about who is like what. Have a good sense on, okay, well, who is what I call now my, the personal circle, and then you've got your social circle, and you've got to know the difference between who is close to you, where you can turn to and open up to, and there's mutually no judgment when y'all open up to each other, and then there's people who you like, y'all are cool, y'all do great things for each other, but you know that they're not everything for you.
Absolutely. That is key right there. Personal circle and social circle. Sometimes we say friend associations, but I think what you said there, the different in circles. Like this is Wayne's circle of 3 people that I can call whenever I need. Then you have the larger social circle where we'll hang out and maybe go catch a game or whatever. But I'm not going to sit there and tell them the struggles I'm having mentally, or how I have troubles like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have 3 circles, and I think when I looked at the circle thing, because I have about this self-help coachy stuff, so they have all these little formulas. But some of these things really, really help, like the personal circle and the social circle, and then there's what I would call, they don't say this, but I do, the global circle. People who you don't know, but you get a lot of knowledge from, like thought leaders. People who help you, allow them to influence you. You read their material really resonates with you. That can help as well. But yet, knowing the difference between your personal circle and your social circle seems to really help clear things up. At least it helped me in my mind and some people who I've shared that with.
I'm going to keep those personal circle and global circle because we learn from other people's experiences. And you're scrolling TED Talks or other YouTube videos of thought leaders. I said like Simon Sinek, for just the first name off my head is like, you learn from his experiences and that he's gone through, and that'll help you in your life. And in order to move up and whatever type of social status or economic status that you're looking for, or even just mental well-being, having those people that you can listen to, you may not know them personally, but you can listen to them and gain knowledge and insightfulness from them.
Oh, absolutely. That's been the global circle is where I did a lot of my growth through, by reading books, following people who I felt resonated with me, just allowing myself to grow through advice that resonated with me, and just building my own personal philosophy like that. So all 3 circles help. You just have to know which is which.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so yeah, you talked a little bit of you kind of had to help yourself a little bit away when you was dealing with depression and all that. So are you like a life coach or like a spiritual coach? And how did you get in that?
I got into this life coach based on my own growing up and trying to discover what manhood is, self-esteem is, who I am as a man, how do I contrast with other men, how do I contrast when it comes to romance and women, how do I contrast when it comes to the world at large. So moving through all of that for myself motivated me to want to help other people walk through this, because one thing that I see that people who aren't mainstream kind of don't really have a lot of resourceful people to turn to, because they don't follow a particular script in society. Like, I don't have traditional views. I don't like things in a traditional way. I don't seem to be like the average dude growing up. I have interests. So it was harder for me to integrate myself into the mainstream. So when it comes to that, because I went through that, I want to also be there for people who feel that they don't fit in, or they have been forgotten, or they don't have anyone to really turn to in a non-judgmental zone. And so that's what motivated me to be a self-development coach, because I knew there were a lot of men out there who wanted to talk about deep personal issues, but didn't have anyone that they can trust, didn't have any friends, or for some reason, whatever they got going on, maybe people stay away from them, whatever it might be. So I'm for people who feel they've been forgotten, or don't have anybody to really open up and trust with, certain personal issues. So that's what I do that. Along my road of developing my own confidence as a man, it had me stumble upon spirituality and the understanding that we are three-dimensional beings, mind, body, and spirit. And so developing the spiritual side of who I am through awareness and mindfulness and study of metaphysical practices, that also motivated me to become a metaphysical teacher. So I offer those tools as a way for people to have a deeper understanding about themselves as individuals. So those two things kind of came together. I started the current business I have, I started out as a men's coach, and I slowly brought in the extra metaphysical stuff over time.
So what is in your opinion a way we can want to help men overcome this isolationist and like isolation feeling of where they don't have people to talk to?
Yeah, that's a big question because it intersects with a whole lot of things, because one of the things I would just, kind of keep it simple is that rid of this idea that we can't trust anybody but family. See, the problem is that we're brought up to think that the only people that we queue is family and maybe a romantic partner, but we're not supposed to have any real close friends. We can't trust nobody. So first we have to break down that stigma of family or a spouse are the only things in the world and open up ourselves to trusting other people. Because I think it first starts with trust, but trust is often influenced by what we're taught at home about who people are, what fits, and things like that. So I think it starts out with trust.
Oh yeah, if they say all kin ain't kinfolk,
That's right. Oh, skin folk ain't kinfolk. That's right.
Yeah.
And family, this whole thicker than water. Well, I guess in a direct sense it would be true. But remember that just because you are in a family structure with someone they're another person. So it doesn't mean you're always going to get along with them. It doesn't mean you can trust them. It doesn't mean you can't have outside resources. So we first have to understand that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you about not being able to trust your family. Like I grew up in a really toxic environment. I talked about it, a couple of episodes ago where my auntie, my cousins, we didn't get along. There was a lot of chaos in the family. It was just so much commotion, and I'm okay with not hear them ever again. A lot of people, keep talking to them. It's like if we don't have anything in common, I feel like I can't trust you, then it's no reason for me to even be around you. It it helps my mental health around them versus when I'm in the room with them. I I can't really feel like I can't really breathe. I feel like I can't really be myself. It's just so many emotions going through because of the childhood trauma that I went through with them, and that kind of carry over into the manhood. And it's a lot of it gets really complicated with family members, but don't be afraid to cut people off for your mentor if you got to.
Well, I see my story is a bit different because I grew up, I had siblings. They were all with families very, not mixed, but different. Like I was with my dad, but I had siblings on my mom's side, and other siblings on my dad's side, but they were with their mom. So I grew up alone a lot. And so I would go like in the summers and see family, but school year, I was always back by myself. And so I never really had a whole lot of family around when I was growing up to grow up in that trusting environment. So it's kind of always just do it yourself type of thing. And so that's what took me so long to be able to have trusting friendships where you can be about what's truly going on and how you truly feel on the inside and mentally. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it can be, even when you do have supposed, then you have to deal with this stigma that we get as men about not being, you're too sensitive, you're too emotional, you can't say this, you can't talk about that, you can't mention this. Everybody's queasy about everything. And then, you're less than a man if you do this, you're less than a man if you do that. So it's those struggles also that I had to work through growing up. So even if you have people around you, that don't mean that you have company.
And then why is that? Like, why are we still in 2024? Like, people still raising their kids like you have to be strong, and where they're boys to like you can't show emotions. Like we are people too, Like you have to be strong with your family, yes, but that doesn't mean that you're you don't have emotions. Like you're cold and you just don't care about the world. Like that's not true.
And that's where we can, and that's where it's talk show to break those stigmas and to let people know that it's okay to open up, have a team support when your family or when your friendships or when your relationship goes south. You can come to us and all. I get a lot of DMs and break it down, crying, saying they don't know nobody to talk to, they're feeling suicidal, and it's so many of those messages that it gets kind of overwhelming hearing all that. I take it when I try to be a confident to people. I try to be more empathetic because I didn't have a lot of friends. Like I talked about last season on the talk show, I didn't have a lot of friends that I can depend on. And it's kind of like similar to your situation, Dennis. You kind of had to dispel. But I think therapy, I'm going to advocating for therapy. And my therapist actually did teach me like the inner circle that you was talking about, Dennis. Like, where you have your close part, you have the outer, and then you have the bigger part where people don't really know you, but you just kind of, get acquainted with them for a need to, like a job or whatever. But when you have that, circle, I mean, the smaller sort of connected friends to talk to, that's really, that really helps if you can't get therapists.
I gotta
So,
say, what I was talking about to say earlier is that, for me, at 38, still learning process. Like, I have a mentor that I just met a few months ago, and recently I told him on one phone call, I said, "What, man, I'm having a tough time mentally, and it's been a real struggle." He referred me to this app. He said, "Yeah, he was going through the same thing, but if he understands." And he has this app where it'll randomly ask you how you're feeling, and you can go in there and you can. There's like so many emotions. It's not just the angry, sad, happy, and
mhm,
chill. There's like so many emotions in there. You can select your emotion, how you're feeling at that time, and what you were doing, things like that, and then you can track it over time. And so I've been doing that for a few weeks, and it's really been helpful. And that's just part of the thing of being able to be open, because a year ago or even a few years ago, like I wouldn't have been able to do that position with somebody I just met online, haven't even met in person, to be open like that.
Yeah, it can be tough. And we all got to find our way that we cope with it, because some people want to open up to someone who they know. Other people would rather it be anonymous because, that's just how they're comfortable. Other people's apps like you do. So I think that we all have to have our own outlet. Like now, I have a really good circle of personal friends. And I call my brother, the closest to, I always call him my men's coach. Because he has a different life experience than I do, because we were separated when we were younger and we got back together. So he has a different life experience. So we share our complementary experiences. And, I always, he knows do for a living, but I always call, hey, you're my men's coach. I help other people, but then you help keep me informed and have someone I can talk to, and the same vice versa with him and me. So, whatever it is that you can do, to get it flowing.
And real quickly, before we get off topic, I just want to mention that app. If anybody ever wants to look for it, it's called How We Feel. Just like How We Feel. Throw it out there.
So, Dennis, I wanted to get it, but we got a few more minutes here left. I wanted to just get into like how. So you said you had issues growing up, like when you was younger and you depression, and you just had a on. How did you use the cope? Like, what coping mechanism did you use for the metaphysics that you used earlier? What coping mechanism did you use to get to kind of help you to get on the right track? Like, what coping
Well,
mechanisms did you do?
yeah.
Because
Well, I know this is a work that takes years and years of time. But one of the things I did, and I just was thinking about this the other day. Interesting you bring this up. One of the things I did when I was a teenager is make music about it. Like if you were to listen to my early, I have a lot of homemade albums. If you were to listen to my music that I wrote, and it's full of death and destruction. It's full of, why is life? I wish I was dead. I mean, I made other songs too, but to answer your question, right? That's how I kind of, I guess, dealt with as a teenager. And then as I got older, I got further and further and further into dealing with psychology, understanding manhood, understanding things. For me, the more I understand a concept, the better I am with finding out how to move through it. The more I understand about how the world works and history and culture, those kind of things actually help my personal development. The more I understand about how the world is interconnected, how tradition happens, why do we do what we do, why do we think what we think, those things may sound very like abstract, but those things actually help me understand myself and understand the world. So those things help. And then as I went further and got deeper into the metaphysics, understanding chakras, understanding numerology, understanding all the different spiritual things that go on, that helped me even more. So it's a combination of things that you can hear.
Okay. All right. That pretty much wraps up conversation today. We do thank you, Dennis. But we always kind of end the show like kind of giving advice about you, if they are struggling with depression, or if they are suicidal or whatever. So could you give the men, some of our struggling audience men, some keyword advice, or advice about what you do, if they're going through, suicide or depression, just any keywords of encouragement?
Sure. I would say at the least, if you don't have any to share it with, or if you didn't download the app, out of your system somehow, whether it be journaling, whether it be music, whether it be recording it somehow. It's important to get the things you feel from the inside to the outside. That way you can think more clearly. When it's on the inside, it's still kind of murky and unexpressed, and some of it may have been dormant. You don't even know. But if you get it outside of you through whatever means we were discussing, that will definitely go a long way to help you think better or more clearer.
Yeah. And like I said, you can
That's a
always
great
tell
point.
us. Yeah, like I said, you can always the men's Discord group. We are constantly accepting new members, every day or every other day. Almost at 40 members in our Discord. So I'm really happy that that's continued to keep going, because a lot of people don't feel like they have anywhere to turn to. So, always reach out to me, Wayne, Chris. He used to be a guest. He used to be one of our co-guests on here. But he's always willing to, help out. He even has a separate, therapy group that he goes to recommend to you guys if you are struggling with thoughts of anxiety and stuff like that. So it's help out here, but we can't do all the work for you guys. You gotta reach out and get help. Last words, Wayne.
I'm still from Dennis. The circles. So I'm still on that. You have your personal circle, you have your social circle, and your global circle. If you write it down on a piece of the help, you write it down and write the names inside, and that way you know where you stand in some people's life, and who you can probably trust, and building that trust if it's not there and you feel like it should be there. Um, Definitely have those thought leaders in the global who can help you. You can learn through their experiences and through their knowledge, and will help you in the long run. It's all about the circles.
All right, that's all we have today, guys. Thank you, Dennis, for coming on to the show today. You're more than welcome to come back if you want to. No pressure, but just let us know. And that's all right today.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm always up for